Hi, I'm David Ortega. I'm the Director of Parent Services and Communications and co-director of the Cal Parents program. Cal Parents is still your central resource for all of the parent connections with UC Berkeley. For more information on Cal Parents, please go to our website, calparents.berkeley.edu. Cal Parents is proud to have our Dean of Undergraduate Studies for the College of Letters and Science, Bob Jacobsen. He joins us on this Facebook Live. It's such a treat to have him. I've known Bob for a very long time, and he's a wonderful person. Professor Jacobsen is a renowned physics scholar in the area of dark energy and dark matter. He also serves as the Cal's faculty athletic representative, and best of all, he's a former Cal parent as well. So without further delay, welcome Professor Bob Jacobsen.
So this teleprompter says that I'm supposed to talk about letters and science and my department and undergraduates and how to communicate with students. So I think we'll do that for a couple of minutes and then we'll get to your questions. I'm from the College of Letters and Science, which is the place where students come to study physics, of course, because everybody should study physics, but also English and history, the social sciences, sociology, economics, and basically the whole range of what you think of when you think of a traditional college education. We bring in students both at freshman and transfer. We help them figure out what it is they want to study, whether it be toward a future career or just out of interest, anything from music to pre-med, and then they graduate and they move on and they make room for other people. In this, the role of the Dean of Undergraduates is to mostly worry about their preparation in breadth. I'm not responsible for the math major or the music major, but I am there to help them find courses for studying philosophy if they're a physicist, or studying English if they're a biologist, or even studying astronomy if they're studying music. We want them to be very broad. We want them to be able to function in a more and more complicated world, and we want them to enjoy the process. As part of that, a lot of students come in and they spend their first 2 years finding their way. They don't necessarily know what they're going to study. They don't necessarily know how to do it in detail. There are 5 different ways you can study biology here. And so part of the job is to make sure there are courses available and other resources available to help them understand what they want to do. Now, some people come in, some students come in knowing exactly what they want to do. And about half of those change their mind. And some come in not knowing what they're going to do, and all of them change their mind because you have to study something in order to graduate. So part of the job of advising, I work with the LNS college advisors, who are the people who help on this, is to help get students through the first couple of years, whether it be navigating what courses to take or how to prepare for majors or things like that. And with that background, we should probably just go ahead and see what kinds of questions have popped up. Except I can't see any questions. I am such a low-tech guy. There's a great big window on the right side that's covering half of this. There we go. Yeah, there we go. So from Kirsten, we have with the increase of students the last 3 years, have students been able to get the classes they need and want? Well, want's a tricky question. We have some classes that a lot of students want to take. David Presti's Drugs in the Brain and Robert Reich's global equity classes are never going to have enough space for everybody. But I think these kinds of questions are really about the ones they want to be able to progress, the ones they want to prepare for the majors they're considering, or to think about a future field, or to fill in the background they want on some area. The answer to that question is, the good news is that the vast majority of students can do this. The bad news is that means there's still some who can't. And the ones who have the most trouble are the ones who are, dare I say it, the least flexible. Typically, even in the first week of classes or two, we will have sections that are open at 8 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock at night. They don't necessarily fit in. Or we'll have a less popular instructor because we offer some classes 2 or 3 times during a semester. And sometimes what you'll hear is, I can't get the teacher I want and I can't get the time that I want. And yeah, at a big place like Berkeley, you can't always get what you want. But often, it's possible to do this. And there are advisors in departments that can help you find your way, help your student find her or his way if they're really focused on how to get a particular class that they need. And that gives a rise to a question from Ted. He says, advising has been an issue for my student, having a hard time getting an appointment in a timely manner. What is the infrastructure of your advising department, and is it adequately sized for how big letters and science is? Well, we definitely need more advisors. That's true. We just need more advisors, and there are cost issues there that are very difficult at a large public university. But the basic structure is important for parents to understand. Most of the things that a freshman or a sophomore will want to talk about, if they're general things, are handled in one of two advising offices. You don't need to know this in particular because your students can find these, but there's a big one in Evans Hall and there's a small satellite one in Dwinell Hall. And a lot of questions can be answered by just going in there and talking to somebody at the desk or talking to the student peer advisors, or in general getting a quick answer. It seems odd to be saying this on Facebook, but students spend too much time on Facebook. And sometimes it's just better for them to go in person. There's also a lot more advisors in the individual departments. So if you look up the history advisor, her name's Leah Flanagan, she's in Dwinell Hall. And if you look up the astronomy advisor, her name is Dexter, and she's in Campbell Hall. And for a question about, do I need this class, or this class I took in community college when I was in high school, does that prepare me? Those are the people to talk to because they're really experts in their field. So as a parent, I encourage you to encourage your students to reach out to the person most likely to know the answer to the question and go talk to them in person. Sending an email is sort of okay, but it's better to go in and meet Dexter or meet Leah if you're interested in studying astronomy or history, because you're going to be working with this person for the next 3 or 4 years. And you might as well get off to a start to help you do a better job of doing that. And if you decide that instead you want to study agronomy, that's okay. You've met some nice people and you can move on. Next question is, I just want to ask, when should a student finally decide his or her major? And I think this is a related part of the same question. My daughter is now in her second semester, has been thinking about astrophysics, but is having doubts. Who should she talk to? Well, I'm having doubts about astrophysics, and I've been doing this for 27 years. So doubts are okay. We very much would like it if students can decide on a major, at least in an informal way, so they're in the right classes to prepare for it by the time they start their sophomore year. And we'd like them to commit to it by the time they start their junior year. That's not always possible. So you might go into your sophomore year still considering 2 different things and keeping those options open, and discover that you need one more course. So you're halfway through your junior year before you're ready to formally declare, and that's the term of art, to declare your major. And that's okay. But students who keep those options open for too long don't really have enough time to delve deeply. And students who worry about it too early are missing out on some of the exploration. Now, in terms of thinking about a major like astrophysics, or let me use another example, Celtic studies. One of my daughters studied Celtic studies. I was nervous. There are people in the department. And if she's really thinking about it, she's probably taken a course or 2 from faculty members. And there are 3 things that I'd like to suggest that she do. I've already mentioned that there's an undergraduate major advisor in astronomy who she could talk to. And that'll be about the formalities. That'll be about, am I ready to do it? Do I need another class? What's this grade mean? She should also talk to one of the faculty members who's been teaching her the classes and ask, what's it like? What are the next classes going to be like? If her doubts are about whether it's too technical or something like that, she should have an honest conversation. Faculty members all have office hours. The vast majority of them are posted on their doors. Just go. You don't even have to be in the class. Just go. The third thing she should do is she should find where the undergraduate students in that major hang out and study. In the case of astronomy, it's in Campbell Hall. In the case of physics, it's right next door. It's on the second floor of LeConte Hall. Actually, it's the first floor, but you got to go upstairs to get to it. If it's in history, it's in a corner of Dwiddle. It's not hard to find. And just show up on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night, because she's probably doing the homework anyway, and talk to them about what their experience is like. And it's amazing how fast you can get to the core of what those doubts are. They might be enough to tell her she should study something else, but better to discover that. Take those doubts and address them at the level of the program, that's the advisor, at the level of what it's like to learn this stuff, that's the faculty, and what it's like to be a member of this community, that's the other students. She can do that. Oh, sorry, they're moving the teleprompter up on me. What's the status of the new undergraduate data science major? When will it be listed as an undergraduate major? When will the major requirements become available? There's a draft proposal that's been running around. I think that the current status is that the major is in front of the faculty senate. These things are, in some sense, education is owned by the professors here on the campus because they're the ones who are going to have to teach it for the next 15 or 20 years if we decide to have it. I expect, but I can't promise, that it will go to the full vote of the faculty in about a month and a half or maybe 7 weeks. And we'll have an answer on that this year, this academic year. So if it gets decided, one of the reasons you have a vote is to decide, and I don't know what the faculty will decide. I hope that they make a good decision. Anybody who's a junior now would be in good shape to declare that. I think it's going to be longer before we have a minor. There have been some technical issues on that, so I'm not making any promises about that. But I think that the major we will have news on between now and the end of this semester. From Michael, my student wasn't able to meet with her counselor before their registration time. Tips. Well, this is going back to a theme that I've been talking about, is that there's a lot of places to get advice. It depends a little bit, Michael, as to whether your student is a freshman or sophomore, but generally these kinds of questions come up with freshmen, so let me assume that. But just as a parenthetical remark, if she's a transfer student, or he or she's a transfer student, they really should be talking to people in their intended department right away. The undergraduate major advisors or the people who are teaching the classes they're interested in. And those are easy to track down. If it's a freshman, really most of the classes that come from a freshman are a matter of what you expect to be studying. If you're expecting to be in the social sciences, if you're studying econ, get in line for Econ 1, etc. And our registration process is actually very long. Not all new students realize that there's a phase 1, which is a first part. There's a phase 2, which allows more changes. There's an adjustment period, which is, well, it's for adjusting. And then there's a week before classes start, which isn't called the adjustment period, but you can adjust things. And then there's 4 weeks after classes start where you can change things. So persistence in working with their counselor and others, and then making adjustments to the schedule as you go along, will help a lot on that. From Caroline, my student wants to double major between 2 colleges, letters and science and another one. How is this process different than a student who is majoring or double majoring solely in letters and science? And then there's some sub-questions I'll come back to. So in Berkeley, and this is true of a lot of schools, but not all, it might be different from your experience, Caroline, you get a degree from a college. You get a degree from letters and science. Your diploma says that you've been given a Bachelor of Arts in English from the College of Letters and Science. And if you want to do 2 of those, if you want to major in English and history, you'll say you get a Bachelor of Arts from Letters and Science with majors in English and history. And you only have to do our breadth requirements. So we require about 7 courses outside your major, more or less, and that's what you'll have to do. But if you want to get a degree from LNS and engineering, or LNS and architecture, you will actually end up with 2 degrees. You'll get a Bachelor of Arts from Letters and Science and a Bachelor of Science from engineering or architecture. I think I got that right. The good news is you get 2 degrees. You get 2 diplomas. You can put them on the wall. They take up twice the space. The bad news is that you have to do all of the breadth requirements and other requirements of both schools. So engineering has design requirements that letters and science doesn't. Architecture has studio requirements that letters and science doesn't. And so if you want to do more than one, you have to be, this is one of these things where deciding early is more important. It's probably too late to decide on that at your junior year because of just the sheer volume for all of that. So that if you really want to do 2 colleges, if your student wants to do those, she or he should be exploring it very early to get a good idea how to do that. And the right way to do it is to find the college advisors in both colleges and talk to them and pull out a big sheet of paper and start to think about how to put all this stuff together. Because, for example, you might be able to use the same writing class for requirements in both colleges. But you probably can't use a class for design and engineering and have it meet a requirement in letters and science. So you have to think about all of that. Now, you do get a little more units and a little bit more time in order to take either 2 majors or what we call simultaneous degrees, these 2 separate degrees in 2 separate colleges. And a lot of students can do it with 1 extra semester, which might have some cost associated with it. Under very rare circumstances, it takes an extra year, but it really shouldn't if you get started on it early. Okay, so now for minoring, minors are not as popular as they used to be. In parents' era of college, a minor was sort of a thing that you could tie in there. A lot of our students go to the 2 extremes. Is they take a lot of courses that are spread around and don't have any real pattern to them, or they go full bore to a second major, because a second major within LNS might only be 6 or 7 or 8 more courses. It might be only 2 or 3 more courses than a minor, and they feel pretty strongly that those last 2 courses give them some value. But to answer the question, if they want to minor in one college and are majoring in a different college, they don't have to do all of those breadth requirements. So a minor in the College of Environmental Design might be much more accessible for a letters and science student than a major because there are just a lot less courses required. And really it comes down to if your student is interested enough to embark on 3 or 4 classes, they can do that. Something that's become very popular recently with students is a minor in the journalism school for an LNS student who is interested in writing, creative writing, communication. And these kinds of things are designed to work relatively well. Minors are often more accessible than majors outside of letters and science. Okay, scroll me up a little bit here. From Nathaniel. Since LNS is the largest college, can you address the size of classes and how the college is ensuring students don't fall through the cracks? The ensuring students don't fall through the cracks is going to be the hard part. We have some very, very large classes. We talked a little bit higher up, a little bit earlier about data science. The data science and computer science classes are very large. We have one that has 1,600 students, 1,600 students in it. But they're broken into parts. So those very largest classes, only about half of the students actually go to the lecture, and most of the rest of them will watch it on video. But then they're broken up into groups of about, let me talk about data science. They're broken into groups of 80, and then those groups of 80 are broken up into groups of about 20, and those are grouped into project groups of 3 or 4, each of which has a tutor that works with them. So it's true that there are a lot of people in the big room watching the distinguished lecturer talk at the front, but then all of the people in the course are working together in smaller and smaller groups until you're down to the individual students learning with a couple of colleagues. Those big courses are very well organized. Where it's more likely to fall through the cracks is a class that has 100 or 200 students in it. In the biggest classes, we know that we have to figure out ways of reaching out and touching all the students. But a class that's grown due to our recent enrollment increases from sort of 60, and you may not believe this, but in a class of 60, by the end of the 3rd week, you can know everybody's name. If you're put a little bit of effort into it, you print out the pictures and you watch it, you you work on their names on the way home on the bus, and you ask everybody to give their name when you call on them. Within a couple weeks, you can learn those names. It's a lot harder to do 200. And those are the ones where you can fall through the cracks. 200 is a place. Now, we do work very hard to have graduate student instructors help those students. Most, not all, but most of those classes will have a few of these things. We abbreviate them. Berkeley likes acronyms. We abbreviate them GSIs, graduate student instructors. And they run sections. They run an hour with a much smaller group of students who can talk to the GSI, talk to each other, go over things they don't understand. And we encourage students to go to office hours. Very few students go to office hours. It's just that in the whole time I've been here, it's been a theme. Every time I talk to parents, I tell them, get your students to go to office hours. But students can fall through the cracks if they don't reach out. And one of the three most important things, I think, particularly for a freshman or sophomore parent, is to think hard about how you can constructively help your student not fall through the cracks. You can't actually plaster over the cracks yourself. The metaphor is starting to fall apart, but you get the idea. But you can encourage them to be a little bit more proactive when they have a question, to go find the person who has the answer. When they aren't getting good answers from a graduate student instructor, to go to the Student Learning Center and get some help with the class, or to help form a study group in their dorm or residence hall or wherever they're living. One of the lessons for parents is, Berkeley is halfway to the real world. They've left home, but they aren't yet in the real world. And part of your job is to help them navigate that, because the real world has lots of cracks in it. Berkeley has some, but the real world has more. Moving from that downer to Christine's question, what are the perks of LNS versus the other undergraduate colleges? We have cooler t-shirts. Actually, that's not true. College of Natural Resources has the coolest t-shirts. Perks of letters and science. Well, let me tell you a story that might capture this for you. Sitting on the chair over there I wasn't sure whether it was going to rain, so I wore my jacket. I have a Cal jacket. It says Cal across the shoulder, and it's got a bear logo on it. And as a physicist, I work in lots of different places. I was on a bus in the middle of nowhere, Australia, and somebody got on the bus who was about 10 years younger than I am, looks at me and says, "Go Bears." And I said, "Go Bears. Were you at Berkeley?" And he said, "Yeah, he had studied English." It turns out we had about a 10-year difference. LNS is so big that you can run into somebody who's an LNS graduate almost anywhere. From the South Pole to the middle of Siberia to the top of a mountain in Japan. And I think that's massively cool. The idea that all these people who have studied all of these things have gone out into the world and made their way and actually smile when they see a Cal logo in the middle of nowhere. I think that's pretty cool. Where can we get updates from the College of Letters and Science? Asked Jason. Wow, I don't know the answer to that. That's a whoops. Jason, I'm not a Facebook literate person, but I will get an answer to you on that. There must be a mailing list or something like that. I know that we keep a lot of news on the main website. There's a Letters and Science Berkeley website, and it's got a news crawl on it, but I don't know whether we have a way to ship them to you. So let's start with that, and I'll ask my colleagues to put something on Facebook once we know the answer. How will my student know if they will get off the wait list? They're on the wait list for a watch. Okay, so that's a wait list for a class, not a wait list for admission. So they're on a wait list for a class. So there are three, as is often the case, there are a couple of different ways. There's a technological way to do it, which is there's a website called Berkeley Time, which can give you sort of the historical information as to how many people have gotten off wait lists in that class in the past. And that's sort of, that's approximate, that's not a promise, but it'll help you identify the fact that some classes nobody ever drops. So it's very unlikely. Whereas other classes, everybody gets to the second week of class and turns in the first homework, and they're out of there. So I would recommend that. I'm not going to recommend in this case that you go talk to the department. And the reason for that is that we just really can't have 30,000 people asking the department as to whether they're getting off the wait list. That just doesn't work. One of the things that your students should do is get to know other students, preferably students a year or two ahead of them. And for the very biggest classes, the chemistries, the economics, that kind of information turns out to be really, really good. From Heather, my student would rather do classes in their own major rather than breadths. Why are breadths important? This is the very first time in this. This is question 12. And this is the very first time in this. I wish I could see your faces while I give the answer. Because I don't know whether I'm going to accidentally make you guys more unhappy than I need to in the answer to this. Because the world is more than your specialty. If you go to a cancer doctor, you want her to be an excellent practitioner, you want her to do it right, but you want her to be educated, you want her to be wise, and you want her to be human. And what we do here at Berkeley is we educate people. We're not, in letters and science, we're not shy about making them learn an awful lot about their field. If you study physics here, you will get the best physics education in the United States. But we also want you to know history, we want you to know biology, we want you to know how to write. So I'm supposed to talk louder. I'm not going to yell at you, but there's some noise in the background because this is Berkeley, and we have people pounding on drums outside the building. But breadths are really important because being a broad person is very important. We are interested in educating people who 10 years from now will be able to have that conversation on the bus in Australia and be able to talk about whatever it is going on. It doesn't sound like much, but we think it's important. From Harry, my student is interested in minoring in film. Is there a process for creating a minor or a major? Is it possible to have influence and implication of majors and minors within LMS? So we have a lot of different things here, but on the time scale of a typical student, it's not really possible for a student to create a new minor or a new major. But we have several interdisciplinary programs that will let students create their own majors and minors. So for example, one of the examples that is given here by Harry is a disability studies major. Well, we have quite a few people who address that in our independent social sciences major, our American studies major. Actually, quite a few of them are through psychology and similar kinds of things. Another example is we have a disability studies minor to which you can add a couple of classes and combine it into an interdisciplinary major. So really, if they find something that fits in between two things, they should start talking to those two advisors and decide whether they want a double major, or bring it down to a major and a minor, or create an interdisciplinary one that is wrapped around what they most care about. Okay, Michelle, how is registration prioritized? We have an enrollment process where, with a few exceptions, because graduate students always screw everything up, the seniors get to go first for about half of their registration, juniors, sophomores, freshmen. Then we go back through. I mentioned earlier this phase 1, phase 2. Phase 1 is about half of your registration in that order. Phase 2 is stepping it back through in that order so that everybody sort of gets 2 shots, but all the courses don't fill in the first shot because there's not enough, people aren't allowed to completely enroll, 10 units instead of 20. And then there's an adjustment period. There are a few students who get moved up and down. There are a few classes that are saved for majors, but the basic process is the people who are closer to graduation get first call on the classes they need. And this works pretty well. If you want to go to Robert Reich's class, you're probably more likely to get into it as a senior than as a freshman. So according to this thing, we're out of time, but I'm to thank you for tuning into this Facebook Live video. Cal Parents thanks you for your support. It's been a pleasure answering all of your questions. If you got questions that haven't answered, please comment them down below. Not reading from the thing, but just looking at you. If you look me up on the Berkeley website, you'll discover my email address and my phone number. I'd be happy to try and help on anything, but actually I'm not very good at helping on very much, so don't set your expectations very high. We hope you have a wonderful evening, and go Bears.